We got a classic right there. That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
You'll never forget that ending.
Phenomenal,
Hectic
Bobby.
game.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
Say
and
it.
it's Marcus Smart. Like the way he took control of the game late, that was all him.
Marcus.
Took the ball, made 3 amazing plays in a row, none bigger than the last one. I've seen a lot of great like pass up shots to get better shots this season. That's number one by far. I mean, he had a little bit of space to fire there, had more space to shoot a little floater or, pull up jumper from mid range with, 1-2 seconds left there. And he still finds another pass. And that's what he's been doing the entire second half of the year. That's why his return was the X factor for this group turning it around after that Wizards game. And really his play overall, unlocking this offense, making it one of the most dominant units in the league this year. Like, so much credit goes to him because Jason Tatum, he couldn't get it done late. Jaylen Brown struggled with the ball. Really hectic and erratic play from him throughout this one. It reminded me of the Knicks game. Like, you needed someone to calm it down. You need someone to make 2-3 plays and just slam the door.
Wasn't
it was
that
almost
weird,
too late,
Bobby?
but he did it.
Bobby, wasn't that weird? You talk about the erratic play almost for no reason. They were playing fast and frenetic at times without really a need to. That's what was weird when it got away from them a little bit there. They just allowed themselves to get a little bit disorganized. It wasn't Nets pressure.
I think it's a mix of how much they were trying to get the ball up court in transition, get the ball downhill. I think the Nets did a good job of poking a lot of balls free on Tatum's drives and stuff. And I think by the end, a real exhaustion set in, especially for Tatum. He had a big assignment on Durant. I think the intensity of playing defense in this game caught up to him and some other guys early in that fourth quarter because the way Kyrie was just walking by guys to the basket, like, it was startling, especially Tatum. He was looking for Tatum early in that fourth quarter, and he got him. So they were fortunate to escape this one. They really were, because you lose in that fashion, collapsing on both ends, going scoreless on 9 out of 13 possessions midway through the fourth quarter there. That's the kind of stuff that can just derail you mentally, start having guys pointing fingers. I think fingers were being pointed after that last Irving 3, the one that made it 107-102 in the timeout huddle there. But they came out, they responded. And I think, again, John, we talked about on Spaces whether the old Celtics could return. And I don't know if the fact that they answered and escaped that collapse makes you feel any better about that. But they did emerge for the start of the fourth, and then it flipped over the last 2 minutes.
That's what we're trying to figure out. Right now, one of two things. You saw them, which means they still exist. I'm talking December Celtics, and that freaks you out. But they overcame it, and you wonder, are they just dusting it off? And now that they've got this one behind them, are we not going to see that again? I don't know which one that is. Obviously, I know people will want it to be the latter, and that would be great. But every time you see it rear its head, like I said, that's why that Miami game just made me sick to my stomach. I was like,
it looked like the Miami game, missing layups,
missing layups and bad execution late. And I'm watching, and it's just like, that's why that game. Everyone's like, it's one game, dude. I'm like, I know, but it just, without Rob, without that X factor, without the thing that kind of the difference maker, separator, and that starting unit that was just destroying people, they come down a notch. And so then it's up to them playing clean basketball and executing and moving the ball and doing all those things. And then you see those games, those fourth quarters, which is most of this one and that Miami one. This is against high caliber Eastern Conference opponent like the ones you're going to face the rest of the way here if you're going to get anywhere. And that's what freaks you out a little. You hope that they can get past it. You don't want to see it again. Well, so I don't know.
So Sherrod, what the way I'm going to answer that is the way they responded and the way they communicated and the way everybody took up their own share of the playmaking duties and all the stuff that they need to do to win the game encouraged me that they're going to be able to move past that. If there was something like, that 3, I go back to that 3 at 107-102, Smart veered in a little too much on Durant on that play, left Irving wide open, and that's what allowed that play to happen. If Smart turned the ball over 2 more times after that, and I don't know, whatever, if there were more mistakes down the stretch, and guys were able to point fingers at each other and say like, oh, if this guy didn't do that or that or that. That's what would worry me. The fact that everybody stepped up encourages me. And I see Tatum talking now. We all thought Marcus was going to take the shot, he says. I think everything about this team's turnaround, and Marcus talked about this after the game, is trust oriented. Like, they began to trust Smart as the point guard. They began to trust Tatum's playmaking. Tatum started to trust guys as shooters. That all connects, and that's all what kept us so stable. The fact that they were still able to lean on each other late in the game and everyone was able to do their part to, make it a win, I think they can brush off that fourth quarter very easily.
I hope so. What do you guys think?
I'm not worried about the fourth quarter for a lot of the reasons that Bobby laid out. But to me, more important, they withstood, I think, the best punch that Brooklyn could possibly throw. I mean, Kyrie Irving was incredible in the fourth quarter. Brooklyn is a good team, but I can't imagine Brooklyn being much better. There's probably another level they can get to, but they're not going to be much better than what we saw offensively in the fourth quarter. And the Celtics withstood that. They withstood that. And as much as we want to point about how Kevin Durant wasn't impactful, Kyrie was significantly impactful. 18 fourth quarter points. That is not normal. That is not normal. And even against, not only is it not normal, you're talking about 18 points against the best defense in the NBA. So
over Smart, that last one too. Yeah, tough shots.
They made some tough shots, and that's why I'm not really freaking out about this, because I can't imagine that Brooklyn would have a similar fourth quarter that we saw tonight, where one guy single-handedly put that Brooklyn team on his back and almost carried him to victory. Because the thing about this game that I keep coming back to this, they had so many guys that played great that damn well are not going to play this well going forward. You can't bank 17. You can't bank on 17 points from Dragic. You can't bank on that bench shooting 8 for 10 from the field in the first half, which is a big reason why it was tied up. You can't anticipate that stuff is going to happen based upon who those players are and who they're playing.
Well, let me ask you this, Sherrod. Can you bank on defending Durant that well again? Because you did about as good a job on him as you could have imagined.
I think that there was a clear difference in emphasis on defending Durant than there was on Kyrie. I think that they were much more focused on defending Durant and limiting his impact than they were on Kyrie.
Could see that.
It seemed that there were multiple defenders pretty much every time Durant touched the ball. That was not the case with a Kyrie. You saw a lot of Kyrie. Whenever there was a switch, they pretty much let whoever got switched on Kyrie try to hold their own. And if Kyrie drove into the paint, then they might attack. But Kyrie wisely took jump shots, took mid-range shots, didn't allow that defense to really double team him the way that the Celtics were planning to. So Kevin Durant did not have that luxury. Kevin Durant, they had him locked in mid-range, attacking the rim, three-point range. They would not allow him to ever get any kind of comfortable feel. And that led to him missing a couple shots that he normally makes. I thought he had a couple of looks in the fourth quarter that were the shots that Kevin Durant typically makes that he didn't. But a lot of that to me is because of what happened in the previous three quarters.
Yeah, I think even on that second to last play right before the game winner, he hesitated a little bit. Celtics were scrambling, swarming. They got to the spots before he could. Think of the last game. He was able to hit the brakes on Rob and shoot over him comfortably. Two guys were in his airspace all the time. I was really impressed. Grant switched onto him great. That was my biggest takeaway of the first half, is just how difficult they made life for him. But that's an aside. That's just, one thing that it could swing either way going forward. Jimmy, did you leave this game more optimistic or pessimistic?
Optimistic, because of just how they finished it. And I would have obviously, I said at the top, I said if they lose this game, they lose the series. Just the way it ended and
agreed.
The way that they broke down in the fourth quarter. But for them to be able to make that execution that they needed to make down the stretch, to come back, take the biggest punch they could have taken, hit the mat, but get back up and see the win, like feel the feeling of seeing the ball go in and hearing the buzzer sound and coming out on top. Like, that gives me a hell of a lot more confidence in this team than it would have if they lost this game. I honestly feel like they would have lost the series. So I'm still confident that they can win the series. Nothing really surprised me, I don't really think, in this game. Like, what, Kyrie drops 40.
Dragic did a little bit, as Sherrod said.
No, that's true. But he's also like weirdly performed well against the Celtics over the years. So, you know, and he is a talented player when he gets some level of burn. So I wasn't stunned, but I was surprised to an extent to see his effect. But the Nets bench, and we talked about it earlier in the show, like they're very, very thin. Without Dragic tonight, I mean, they really are getting no production off that bench. So you really do need 30, 35 from each Durant and Kyrie to really give your team a chance to win this series. And I just don't know if they have it in them with the supporting cast that they have. So I feel pretty good about the Celtics after this. You know, we can talk about some of the things that they didn't do right. And I mean, I think, you know, especially not taking advantage of turnovers, like poor execution at stretches. You know, obviously they got production at points. Jason Tatum had a great game. You know, first half he didn't score a ton, but he was doing a lot. I think he had 7 assists in like the first quarter, something crazy like that. And Marcus Smart coming alive in the second half. So every player contributed at certain points. But I thought that there were points throughout the game where it was like, wow, these guys are just running around. I thought that they were kind of out of sorts, especially in that first half. It felt like the game was just going at 100 miles an hour, and then it was like a foul, and it would stop. And then it would start back up at 100 miles an hour, and then it would stop. It was not much of a flow to it.
Yeah, offensively they were a mess. Defensively though, they set a real tone with the physicality.
Defensively, they were great. They just couldn't make the most of it on the offensive end.
Yep, agreed. Especially in transition. But let me get my bite at the Nets because
chomp away.
I mean, this is like some of the stuff they did tonight was despicable. I mean, an inbounds where no one comes back and Kyrie just throws the ball away and Smart's dunking over him. I mean, that doesn't even happen in high school. I mean, there were stretches in this game that should terrify you if you're a Nets fan. Like hands on hips, no one talking to each other, guys staring at each other like, really, you just did that? Guys letting Celtics blow right by them to the rim, fouling their heads off. And I know it ended up evening out by the end of the first quarter, but that set a terrible tone for the game. They're so undisciplined, and this is what I'm talking about.
You should be able to break them with sustained effort and focus. Yep. You should be able to break them because they are front runners. They're not going to be great when you punch them in the mouth. They all of that stuff you're talking about. That's why, again, in that third quarter when the Celtics surged, they could have friggin' ended them right there, and they let them hang around.
But it was shot making, right, from Irving. There was nothing you could do about that.
Durant's hitting the one-footed floaters. You know, like they didn't have a great game, but he hit a couple contested shots. Kyrie.
I do feel like the turnovers fed it though.
That's my counter to that, Bobby. Is and when you and I debated this series, leading up to it, every single thing you say about Brooklyn and their problems is right, and then my counter is, but it doesn't matter. You know, and that's what it is it doesn't matter when you have two of the best shot makers ever on the other side. Is, you know, if you're not playing great or perfect or they're not falling for you, those guys can just beat you no matter what you do sometimes because they just hit shots in your friggin' face. And that's what's scary about these guys. So all of that stuff is right. They're not super deep. They're friggin', you know, they don't get a lot of points in the paint. They don't have a real solid interior presence. You know, they don't play a lick of defense. Yes, check. But those guys can still beat anybody on any given night.
But can you win a series just leaning on two guys bailing you out of everything? That's why I couldn't pick the Nets.
It's harder, and that's why I don't know. It's harder for sure. Yeah. But again, each game is a game like every other. And
well, let me ask you a question.
If you tense up and if you play the way the Celtics played tonight, you know, and missing layups, you know, not executing in the fourth quarter, you know, stop moving the ball, all of that stuff. Yes, you can lose multiple games in this series. But if you don't do that, if you're the Celtics, then
it was scary. It was a scary sight.
What's up, Jimmy?
Watching this game, knowing what you got out of the Brooklyn bench, and knowing who you have sitting on the bench, not in uniform, would Ben Simmons have been the difference in this game tonight?
I mean, Bobby would say it's a negative difference. Yeah.
Would Ben Simmons have given the Nets a win tonight? John's answer might be yes. Bobby's answer is probably no.
I'm watching him pregame, and he's just bouncing the ball around, not really move. He doesn't look like a guy that's ramping up. And, maybe it's just for show and he doesn't want to draw attention to himself and they're playing coy on this, but I just don't think he's ready. I don't think he's ready to step into the series and do anything. I'd be stunned.
Tatum from scoring at the buzzer? Better than Kyrie at the
Yeah, I mean,
He's
it's another
never
guy
been
who can
able to
step
score
in
in
there
that
and switch,
situation.
but yeah, you're going to have Kyrie Durant out there at all times.
In that situation.
Yeah, he's in that Claxton Drummond mix. And Drummond, man, he's not going to be able to play in the series. You saw the way he played tonight. Claxton was really good. I guess you could use Simmons in that mix at the 5, but again,
that's what I mean. Is if you want to go small ball and take Drummond off the court, there you can play Simmons at a 4 or a small ball 5 and not worry. And you're right, when you're not, you can't have Claxton and Simmons out there or Simmons and Drummond out there at the same time. That's going to really clog things up.
He's going to have to play the 5.
But
is he ready for that?
Play a 5 out there with Brown, Irving, Curry, and Durant, and you can get away with that when you're 4. When you have a 6'11" guy in Durant out there as well, you can get away with that. You can also
get away with it when Tice is on the other end.
Yeah.
So Tice was brutal.
Tice was brutal. We talked about it a little.
Yeah. It's a Grant series.
You say it's a Grant series, but Sherrod wasn't too happy with Grant either.
No. Really, Sherrod? I thought he was awesome on Durant.
I thought he was awful.
I thought his defense played. I thought he played well. I thought he played well on defense.
Was fine. I mean,
offensively wasn't hitting shots, and that's good. It's gonna make or break him. But
I don't think Tice. Like I said, Bobby. In that second half, how many possessions?
I was worried about Tice too. How
many possessions in a row did they target Tice on a switch? Every time down the court.
And that's what got Kyrie going, wasn't it?
Yep. It was Durant or Kyrie getting Tice on a switch, on the high pick and roll, and then just going to work, one after the other. And Tice knew, and when they were taking him to the basket, he knew like anything I do here is going to result in a foul. So he wasn't even really playing them aggressively. He was just kind of laying back and trying to stay around them. But they could get anything they wanted there off of that. That was,
You weren't high on Grant, Sherrod?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't high on him because I thought, again, their best defense on Kevin Durant was help defense. So Grant I will say this, Grant did a good job of funneling him to where the help was. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. But he has to be able to impact the game at both ends of the floor. And by impact, I'm not saying he needs to go out there and get you 20 and 10, but if you've got an open shot, you need to make that. If you are passing the ball to a teammate, that pass needs to get there without being deflected. You have to make your presence felt so that defense can respect you. But more important, free up a little more space for Tatum and Brown to do what they do. And I thought Grant did not do a good enough job in that area. His defense, I just didn't think was that good. I didn't. I thought he got great help from guys around him. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, it was a team effort. That's what they talked about in Durant there. But I thought he fit well in it, and he was at that spot a lot. He was getting the hands up. They were getting a lot of quality contests on Durant, more than you could ever imagine. Like, it was a sensation. Whether it was him or the team or, whoever gets credit there, we'll go back and look at the film. But
are you trying to switch to sensational there?
It wasn't phenomenal.
Yeah.
Smart.
just a tick below.
Wasn't quite there.
I saw you try to sneak into sensational.
Smart rose to phenomenal in this game, but everyone else, they got stuff to work on.
I thought Al was phenomenal.
Ooh, he was.
20 and 15.
And I did write about Al for Boston Sports Journal. Just sort of a look at his path here, coming back to Boston, getting ready for this moment. I mean, this is his first playoff game in NBA arena since 2019 with the Celtics. So he was pumped up. You saw him flexing for the crowd after an early bucket inside. You saw him stepping right into a 3 in the early moments. And our commenters were on it. In that raw video we posted, John, who was in the front? Al just splashing threes at practice the other day, one after another. And that's how his shot looked in this game. It looks great. He closed the year shooting 44% from 3. Yeah. Rebounding, he's been terrific. And just the switching, he's always there. Aggressive, banging mismatches in the post. Like, he did everything they needed, and he played 40 minutes.
We have to. I don't want to dwell on it. We have to get Rob back as quickly as possible. I know, Bobby. You
don't want to dwell on it.
I know, Bobby. You have a lot of faith, and generally speaking, you think Daniel Tice.
I'm worried about Tice. I'm with
the more Daniel Tice games that you have, the more vulnerable you are here. It's
No, and all three of your guys pick up 2 fouls in that first, and you go, uh-oh, where are you going to go from here? But hopefully that doesn't happen again. That really threw the game off for both teams early, I thought, all that foul trouble. And the Nets were lucky it evened out because they were fouling like crazy early, and then the Celtics got it bad at the end of the first. And luckily, Al, I think, only ended with 3 fouls after the 2 in the first.
Again,
you're right, John. I don't love Tice in this series.
It's those heavy minutes, man. I like Tice as an absolute Band-Aid stopgap for a game. It's just, if they got to go 4, 5, 6, 7 games here, he's going to be exposed. You're gonna have to survive it. It's a problem. It's a real problem.